In a small, sunlit village surrounded by rolling green hills and the sweet scent of wildflowers, there lived a girl named Clara. She was known by everyone in town as the lazy girl. While other children helped their parents in the fields, fetched water from the well, or swept their homes clean, Clara could always be found sitting in the shade of the big oak tree, daydreaming. She loved to watch the clouds float across the sky, forming shapes of castles, dragons, and ships. She loved listening to the wind rustle through the leaves and the birds singing their songs. But ask her to gather firewood, carry a basket of apples, or mend a torn dress, and she would sigh dramatically, claiming her arms were tired, her legs weak, or her head too full of thoughts. At first, the villagers tried to encourage her. "Clara, if you work a little, you'll feel proud of yourself," said old Mrs. Finch, the baker. "Clara, lend a hand, and we'll all get the chores done faster," called the children as they pulled weeds from the garden. But Clara only shrugged. "Why should I hurry when the sun is warm, the grass is soft, and the clouds are waiting for me?" And so, the name stuck, the lazy girl. One summer morning, as Clara lounged by the oak tree, a soft humming filled the air. She turned her head and saw an old woman walking slowly down the road. Her back was bent, and she leaned on a crooked stick. A heavy bundle rested on her shoulders, so large it looked as though it might topple her at any moment. The villagers were busy that day, repairing fences and tending to animals. No one noticed the old woman except Clara. The woman stopped near the tree and said kindly, "Child, could you help me carry this bundle a little farther? My arms are weary." Clara sat up, then leaned back again with a sigh. "Oh, I wish I could," she said, though she made no move to rise. "But my arms are weak, and I'm not used to carrying heavy things." The old woman studied her with eyes that seemed far too bright for someone so frail. For a moment, Clara felt something stir inside her, a prick of guilt, perhaps, but she quickly looked away. The woman smiled gently. "Very well, child, rest, if you must." She adjusted the bundle and continued down the road. Clara lay back under the tree, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't enjoy the drifting clouds. The old woman's voice echoed in her mind. "Could you help me carry this bundle? My arms are weary." That night, Clara dreamed of the woman again, only this time the bundle had grown larger, and the woman's legs buckled beneath its weight. Clara woke with her heart racing. Days passed, and Clara returned to her lazy ways. But strange things began happening in the village. The baker's flour sacks split open one morning, scattering flour everywhere. The blacksmith's tools vanished for a whole day, only to appear neatly stacked outside his door the next. The children who played in the fields found their toys arranged in circles, as though someone had been watching them and carefully putting things in order. The villagers were puzzled. Some whispered of mischievous spirits. Others believed it was a prank. Clara, however, thought of the old woman and her strange, bright eyes. One afternoon, Clara dozed under the oak tree when she heard footsteps again. She opened her eyes to see the old woman returning. But this time, the bundle on her back was gone. Instead, she carried a small wooden box in her arms. "Child," the woman said, "would you like to see what's inside?" Curiosity overcame Clara's usual laziness. She sat up. "What is it?" The woman opened the box. Inside, shimmering threads of gold and silver glowed softly, like strands of light spun from the sun and moon. Clara gasped. "These are the threads of kindness," said the woman. "Every time a person helps another, a new thread is spun. They weave together into something beautiful and strong." Clara stared. "But why are you showing this to me? I've never spun any thread like that." The woman's smile deepened. "Not yet." Before Clara could ask more, the woman closed the box and disappeared down the road, as if she had never been there. From that day, Clara found it harder to stay still. Whenever she saw someone struggling, she remembered the threads in the box. She wondered what it might feel like to spin one of her own. One evening, she saw little Samuel, the miller's son, drop a basket of apples. They rolled across the dusty road. Normally, Clara would have pretended not to notice. But this time, she jumped up, gathered the apples, and placed them back in his basket. Samuel grinned. "Thanks, Clara," and in that instant, Clara felt something warm shimmer inside her chest, as though an invisible thread had been tugged into existence. The next day, she carried water for Mrs. Finch. Another thread. She helped the blacksmith's daughter find a lost kitten. Another thread. Each act filled her with a quiet joy she had never known before. Then came the storm. It rolled over the hills with thunder that shook the rooftops and rain that fell in sheets. The river swelled until it spilled over its banks, rushing through the streets of the village. People scrambled to save what they could, livestock, food, clothes, while children clung to their parents, frightened by the roaring water. Clara stood by the oak tree, shivering. For the first time, she did not think of herself. She thought of the children crying, the neighbors struggling, the old woman's words. Every time a person helps another, a new thread is spun. Without pausing, she waded into the rising water. She pulled a child to safety, then another. She grabbed sacks of flour floating from the baker's shop, dragging them to dry ground. She joined the men pushing against the wooden barricades, her arms aching, her legs trembling, but her heart stronger than ever. The storm raged through the night, but by dawn, the village still stood. The water receded, leaving mud and broken fences behind, but no one had been lost. As the sun rose, the villagers gathered in the square, exhausted yet grateful. They looked at Clara, mud-streaked, soaked, her hair tangled, but her eyes shining. "You saved my little Anna," whispered Mrs. Finch. "You carried my tools out of the flood," said the blacksmith. "You helped us all," murmured the miller. Clara, the lazy girl, had worked harder than anyone that night. Later, when the villagers returned to their homes, Clara walked back to the oak tree. There, sitting on the grass, was the old woman with the crooked stick. Her bundle was gone, her wooden box open. Clara approached quietly. Inside the box, dozens of new threads glittered, gold and silver, brighter than the morning sun. She knew at once that they were hers. The old woman looked at her and nodded. "You see, child, you were never truly lazy. You were simply waiting to discover the joy that comes when your heart works for others." Clara's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to thank the woman, but her voice caught. The woman closed the box and stood. "Keep weaving, Clara. The world always needs more threads of kindness." And with that, she vanished into the dawn, leaving only the faint scent of wildflowers behind. From that day on, Clara was no longer called the lazy girl. She worked alongside the villagers, sometimes humming as she carried baskets, sometimes smiling as she swept the streets. She still loved lying under the oak tree, watching clouds drift across the sky, but now she did it after her chores, her heart full, her hands strong, and her life woven with golden threads unseen.